names for Satan. Look at the names for Satan. Okay, let's see here. Okay, the word Satan, Greek word is Satanas. It's used over 52 times, and it means adversary. So whenever
Excuse me, Pastor, make your screen big again.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm trying to do that. Okay, I might have to go out and come back in again. Let me go out and come back in.
Okay.
All right. All right.
There you go.
Okay. So the word Satan actually means adversary. Then he's called the devil. This is used 35 times. The Greek word, I used to like to watch some old cowboy movies, right? And they would talk about Diablos, right? Diablos. Who was Diablos? Diablos was the name of the devil, right? And that word actually means that he's a slanderer. He's a slanderer. Then look at some of these other names that we see for Satan, the prince of the power of the air. So that lets us know that he has power on this earth. Now, God has all power, right? Satan does have power, and he's able to work through the airways. He's the God of this age. That means that, again, God is still omnipotent. He's omniscient. God is all powerful, but Satan is the God of this age, of this world. Just think of, man, it's crazy. All the killings that we have, it's just unbelievable. When you think about how people can just take a person's life. Well, what's going on? I believe that behind this is Satan, is the devil. You can say, what you want to say, right? And you can explain it in all type of, terminology that you want to explain it in. But the fact of the matter is that it's Satan behind it. And look at the next thing. He's the king of death. He's the king of death. He's the prince of this world. So this lets us know just some of the descriptions of Satan. Lets us know what his work is. He's the ruler of darkness. Just this, what, saints, you might not know it, but there's a whole lot of dark things going on in this world today. I mean, just there's a whole lot of darkness. I was the college that I went to, Fort Lewis College in Colorado. There was a lot of American Indians that went to the school, and a big epidemic on the reservations today. Alcoholism is one. That's one. A lot of American Indians are dealing with alcoholism, but another one is this whole issue of trafficking. That you think it's bad in the Black community. There are thousands of American Indian girls that are missing, and they don't know where they're at. And so a lot of them believe that, they've been kidnapped and they're caught up in this darkness, this underground world where Satan rules, and they're using these young girls for, nefarious purposes, right? And so we see he's the ruler of darkness. Lucifer, that was the name that was given to him when he when God created him, Lucifer, the dragon, right? That's what we're looking at today. And we're going to continue to talk about the dragon, right? And the dragon, the first person of the unholy Trinity, the deceiver. He's called Apollyon, the destroyer. You know, he destroys lives. He destroys marriages. He destroys relationships. He destroys, people, they get caught up in drug addictions and alcoholism. He's the destroyer. He's the wicked one. He's the tempter, right? That's one of the beautiful things about the millennial. When we get into the millennial and Satan is bound, there will be no temptation. There'll be absolutely no temptation at all. We don't have to worry about being tempted to overeat or being tempted to do something immoral, right? The tempter will be removed, Satan, the accuser of the brethren, right? He just waits for us to stumble, and then he goes back to God and he accuses us when we stumble. The angel of light, marvel not that the devil can be transformed to an angel of light. That old Hallmark greeting. He cares only enough to send the very best. He's not going to come with a red suit, pointed ears, a tail, and a pitchfork. We think of the man on the hot sauce bottle, right? He's not coming like that. That when he comes as an angel of light, and again, deceiving, a murderer. Jesus said that he's a murderer. And again, I got a theory. I got a call. The mayor is calling people of faith to come to his office so they could talk about how to address all these murders going on in the city. And sadly, I'm not able to go. I wish I was, but because this is what I would say, right? This is what I would say. You got to bring God into the lives of these people that's doing all this murdering, right? And they might, if they don't want God, they don't want God. That's, that's another thing. But if you're talking about, catching the kids and dealing with kids, you got to bring God into their life. Because I believe that all these people that are killing people, and I'm not going to say everyone, I'm going to say 99.9% of them, that they don't have a conscience of God. They don't have a knowledge of God. How can you just go take somebody's life? If you have a God conscience, you're compassionate, you're sensitive to your fellow man, you honor life. But when you don't have a God consciousness, you don't honor life. You can just go and it's just like the young man that when they were leaving my granddaughter's birthday party, right? And they got in their vehicle, and another couple individuals just rode by, got out and just shot up the car, just shot it up, right? Shot it up and killed one young man in there, right? How can, where does that come from, Saint? Now, you can write me and you can send me emails or text or whatever, but you can't convince me otherwise that this comes from no place else other than the devil, because he's a murderer. And so I think that we got to get God in these kids' life. We can come up with all kind of programs, right? All kind of community programs. It's like I said, I've been pastor at Bethany since 1990. From the time I hit Bethany Baptist Church, and some of you who were here in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. There was gangs and they were killing people. There was drug deals and people were being killed. People were being killed in the 90s, and saints, they still continuing in 2023. But what I've seen is kids that have come up through the church. Now, I'm not saying that all of them were saved. I believe that most of them were saved, right? I believe most of them were saved. But all of them come up, whether they're saved or not. And you know what they have? They have a God conscience. That somewhere, some of the older saints taught them the stories of the Bible. and taught them that there was a God, and put God in their mind, put God in their spirit, right? And so they have a God conscience. And so most of the kids that have, and I'm just going to say Bethany, because Bethany is the only church I know. Just think about some of your kids and where they are now, right? They you know, they're in, if they came through Bethany, well, let me take that back. If they came through the church, right? If they came through the church, somebody's church, where God was being taught, where Christ was being lifted up, right? You know, they generally have gone on to become productive citizens in our society, right? So, you know, that's my theory. And if I was going to be at that meeting tomorrow, that's what I would have that's what I would have said. But I'll get my message through another way. He's a roaring lion, right? He's that old serpent. What does that mean when it calls him the old serpent? You know, you put on your Bible hats, right? The old serpent, that means back in the Garden of Eden, right? That old serpent, he appeared as a serpent. He's the enemy. He's Beelzebub. Actually, that word Beelzebub means the prince of flies, right? The prince of demons. Belial, he's the vile and ruthless one. And so we see that he is characterized in many ways, but today we are looking at him as the dragon, right? We are looking at him as the dragon today. Now, what are some beliefs about Satan? Well, some people believe that he's a myth. They think that he was just conjured up as some type of fairy tale, and so, you know, some people who were trying to scare other people, that they said that, you know, there's this evil character called the devil. And so now, you know where that comes from, right? You know where that comes from, right? Somebody says he's a myth. That comes right from the mouth of Satan. That's because that's what Satan wants you to believe. He wants you to believe that he's a myth. And then some people say, well, he's really not a person, but he's the personification of evil. Which, you know, I would say there is some truth to that. He is the personification of evil, but, you know, he's a real being. He is a real individual. And don't let anybody tell you anything else, because there's a lot of stuff going around today trying to explain Satan away. And again, they try to explain him away by saying that he was a myth, by saying that he is a personification of evil, right? But we know better than that. We know that he's real. And I like what D.L. Moody said, right? D.L. Moody said, I believe Satan exists for two reasons. First of all, the Bible says so. And second, I've done business, right? So how many of you have done business with him? And when I say I'm not being on his side, but how many of you have had encounters with the devil, right? It might have been through somebody on your job, or it might have been through another family member. It might have been through some circumstances that came into your life. But we've all done business with the devil, right? He's attacked us. He's tried to bring guilt trips on us. So I like what D.L. Moody says. You know, he says, I believe Satan exists for two reasons. First of all, because the Bible says so, and then because he did business with him. And so again, I'm sure that all of us on this Zoom Bible study today, we can say in some shape, form, or another that we've all done business with the devil. You know, we've had him approach and attack our lives. So the devil is real. You know, we sing that song, God is real. He's real in my soul. Yes, God is real, for he has washed and made me whole. My love for him is like pure gold. My God is real, because I can feel him in my soul. So we know God is real. And you know what? Satan is real, because I'm gonna show you in a second how we know that he's real, and probably for many of us from personal experience. Let's look at real quick the origin and beginning. Okay, before the devil fell, his name was Lucifer, right? And the word Lucifer means morning star. So his name is taken from the Latin, and it means he was a light bearer, right? Wow. Somebody asked a question, why did God create the devil? Saints, do you know the answer to that question? All of us should know the answer to that question. So you remember what I'm getting ready to tell you, right? God didn't create the devil. God created Lucifer, and Lucifer was a beautiful. You notice that his name, morning star, right? Morning star, light bearer. He was. Well, let's go on and look at some things. Uh, uh, he was identified. He was a created being. So God created him. God created him. In Ezekiel 28, it says, in the day that you were created, right? Uh, it says from the day that you were created, talking of Lucifer, that he was created by God. Lucifer was created by God. And notice this, saints, in Ezekiel 28, he was perfect in wisdom. He was perfect in beauty. He was perfect in music. Some people believe that he was the heavenly choir director, that in him originated music. He was perfect. So he was perfect in every way. Ezekiel 28:15. So when somebody says, why did God create the devil? Or why did God create Satan? God didn't create Satan. Notice God created Lucifer, a being that was perfect in wisdom, perfect in beauty, perfect in music, perfect in every way. That's the individual that God created. And notice that, where was he at? He had access to the presence of God. He was in the garden of God. He was in Eden. That he dwelt in Edom. He had access to the very garden of God. He was on God's holy mountain, the place where God resided. He had access to God, and he had access to the sanctuaries of God. You think about the sanctuary, the temple, the place where God met with the people, that Satan had access, or Lucifer had access to the very presence of God. He was powerful. He was called the anointed cherub, which is a designation for a powerful angel. But sadly, his heart was lifted up because of his beauty, and he corrupted his wisdom because of his beauty. And so he was a very prideful individual. Why was he prideful? Because of his perfection in wisdom, in beauty, in music, every way, his perfection and his access to God. And these things caused him to become proud. And notice this. We go back to Isaiah 14, and he wanted God's residence, right? He said, I will ascend into heaven, right? Like I'm going to be right there where God is at. He wanted God's rule. In Isaiah 14, verse 13, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Satan wanted to rule over the stars of God, or another word for the stars of God, the angels. He wanted rule. He wanted God's rule. He wanted God's recognition, right? He said, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. The sides of the north was a poetical expression for the power and preeminence. Ancient people believed the north was the highest part of the earth. He wanted God's recognition. He wanted to be recognized instead of God. He wanted God's radiance. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, is what he said. The clouds represent glory, and Lucifer wanted the glory of God. He wanted God's rank. I come on every Wednesday, and what do I say? Saints of the Most High. Well, Lucifer, he wanted that rank. He wanted Pastor Glaze, when he came on Wednesday afternoon and he says saints of the Most High, he wanted Pastor Glaze to be referring to him and not to the God of the universe, right? The Most High God, El Elyon. Now, sometimes I call y'all saints of El Elyon, right? Well, it means the same thing. The Most High God, who was the possessor of heaven and earth. And so Satan, Lucifer, he wanted to be like God. And then we see he fell, okay, that he was kicked out of heaven. And Revelation 12 in verse 4 tells us, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to earth. And so when Satan fell out of heaven, he took a third part of the stars with him. And who were the stars? They were angels, right? So all these angels, a third of them followed Satan. Now, when you think about God's creation of angels, God created an innumerable amount of angels. I mean, there's just so many that you can't even count them. But to think that when he fell, a third of that group went with him. But the good thing is that there's 2/3 that stayed with God. So they got the evil ones outnumbered 2-1. All right. So when the dragon, so it refers to the dragon, and it says that the dragon fell from heaven. So again, who is the dragon? The dragon is Satan. All right, the devil. And when he fell, he took a third of the angels with him. What are some of his activities? What's he doing now? First of all, he opposes God's program. When you think about the parable of Matthew 13 of the wheat and the tare, right? So where there's wheat growing, what does he do? The enemy goes in and sows tares among them. And so, saints, that's why, man, we can't let the devil come between us. You can't let the devil work in your life and cause you to, have odds with another saint, because that's his program. Whenever two saints argue, and whenever two saints, stop speaking to each other and they stop fellowshipping, then you know what's happened. I'm just going to be honest with you. You've let Satan have the victory. You've let the dragon have the victory, because he's trying to oppose everything that, when you're involved. It kills me, man, when you see people involved in ministry and they start bickering and they start arguing, because what have they done? They've let Satan come in and cause disruption. And that's why I thank God for, and again, I know we have people on here other than Bethany people, but in my going on 33 years of pastoring at Bethany Baptist Church, we've seen our share of conflict. But I would say for the most part that people are trying to be submissive to the word of God. And so generally people want to work through things because they want to glorify God, right? But there have been those times when people have allowed the devil to get the best of them, and because one of his activities is opposing God's program. And so they let the devil get in there and tear up ministry, tear up relationships. And so we need to be on the lookout for God. For God, forgive me for that. We need to be on the lookout for Satan. We need to be on the lookout for God too, right? We need to see God working in our life. He is seeking to devour people. It says that 1 Peter 5:8, he's going around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. He's ferocious. He's roaring. He's just looking for someone who he can destroy. He's looking for some life that he can get addicted on drugs. He's looking for some life that he can get caught up in immorality. He's looking for some life that he can wreak havoc in. He's seeking to devour people. 2 Corinthians 11, he's seeking to deceive people. And that's why I told you before, he can be transformed into an angel of light, right? He can make it look so good and tempt us to fall for the things that God is trying to what does it say in the Lord's Prayer? Lead us not into temptation, right? And deliver me from evil, right? The devil is seeking to bring temptation and evil. And how's he doing it? As an angel of light. And so God says that we should pray, lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. He is ruling over the affairs of darkness. You know, again, I talked about the American Indians and all these missing girls on the reservation. You know, some darkness, right? That's darkness. You know, when you look at our world today, you know, there are people in places of authority who are bent on promoting darkness, right? You know, I know that I'm getting ready to get in trouble. I know I'm getting ready to get in trouble, but you know, that one, and I would encourage everybody to go back and look at Alan Parr's video on Beyonce, right? Go back, and he's documented. He's documented this. And Beyonce, as much as she is loved by people, she is a nefarious individual. And she has a program of darkness. Just again, you know, now the media is not going to tell you this, right? Why? Because she's powerful. You know, if you think about it, Beyonce is powerful. You know, she's one of the most powerful people in the world. But go back and look at some of the things that she's involved in. It's darkness. It's darkness. He's making accusations against God's people, you know, and we already looked at that. So let me share this with you, and then we're going to continue to look at this whole idea of the dragon. And many of you know that I've written several books, but one of the books that I've written is 50 Ways to Resist the Devil, right? And these are strategies for dealing with satanic attacks in your life. Now, notice some of the articles are, and again, you've heard of the song by Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, right? Well, I use the names of men and women to show how believers can leave or resist the devil. This book is packed with spiritual truth that will enable God's people to be effective in spiritual warfare. It looks at many of the verses in the Bible dealing with Satan and presents valuable strategies for coming up against him. All who read, now I didn't write this, somebody else wrote this. All who read this book will be enlightened to the subtle ways in which the forces of darkness operate and how to successfully come against them. So look at, let me just read some of the things that I have in here. Protect your home, Jerome. Don't get a big head, Fred. Seek God early, Hurley. Put aside your pride, Clyde. Discard the horoscope, Hope. Guard your worship, Chip. Follow the example of Nehemiah, Jeremiah. Here goes one right here. All the young people need to read this one. Disconnect from the screen, Dean. You have to pray daily, Bailey. Don't be lusty, Rusty. Don't be a fool, Jewel. Tell the truth, Ruth. Don't let Satan take your peace, Reese. Discipline your sex, Rex. You must be born again, Ken. Don't be fooled by the light, Dwight. So, you know, I could go on and on. I got a bunch more, right? But we're talking about this dragon. And, you know, we need to know how to deal with the dragon. So, you know, I go through here. Let me just do one more thing before, because there's an index in the back. And, you know, we deal with things such as adversity, alcohol, astrology, blasphemy, busyness, discernment, discord, distractions, divisions, drugs, evil, fools, fortune telling, greed, hatred, horoscope. So again, the occult, Ouija boards, palm reading. We deal with rebuking Satan. What does that mean? Satan's devices. And so that's all in here. Strategies to deal with the devil. And I would recommend that you get it. If you don't already have a copy of this book, I recommend that you get a copy of it. You can get it on Amazon. This is one of my few books that's on Amazon. So you can get it on Amazon, and you can get it, you can either get a hard copy or you can get a Kindle version, right? I like Kindles because you can get them right away, and then you got them on your computer. But I really felt that the Lord wanted me to present this to let us know, since we're talking about the dragon or the devil, that that we can deal with him, and we can deal with him effectively. That we don't have to wimp out, or we don't have to shy away from dealing with him. But what I did, I went through the scripture, and every verse that deals with the devil in the Bible, I developed a strategy for how to deal with the devil. All right. So the devil, Satan, he has limitations. He's not omnipotent. He's not all powerful. He's accountable to God. He has knowledge, but he's not omniscient. Even though he is wise and crafty, he doesn't know everything. Only God knows everything. He's not omnipresent. He was cast out of heaven, and he had access there by the Lord's permission, and he only can be in one place at a time. So he is very limited in what he can do. All right. So the dragon, let's get back to the dragon. Who is who? Who is the dragon? We're dealing with the unholy Trinity, right? The Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The unholy Trinity is the dragon, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. Okay. He is called Revelation 12:3. He is called the dragon. Well, let me read that here real quick. Revelation 12 and verse 3. Revelation 12:3. And it says here, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. Okay, so the dragon is very powerful. So that's why he's referred to as a dragon. He's red, and that refers to bloodshed, the blood that he will shed. He has 7 heads and 7 crowns. And throughout Revelation, the number 7 symbolizes completeness. And so his 7 heads and 7 crowns could picture the totality of Satan's control over this earth. That he will have, again, in the eyes of mankind, complete control over this earth at one point. But he only has it because God has given him the permission to do it, right? God is still in control, and Satan can only go as far as God will let him go. He had 10 horns. During the tribulation, Satan will be, his kingdom will be ruled by the Antichrist, and he will be the head of a 10-nation kingdom, which is represented in by the 10 horns. So it gives this description of the dragon. It says that he's red. He has 7 heads and 7 crowns. You can see that on the picture right there on the screen. He has 10 horns, right? So he's going to be over a 10-nation confederacy. All right, so that's the description of the dragon. Now, one of the things that the dragon is going to do, and he's going to persecute Israel. In Revelation 12 in verse 4, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was Israel, which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And so Satan tried to prevent the birth of Christ during the first advent of Christ. He was busy. He worked through Herod, right, to try to destroy Christ. But that didn't work. So he took another method, and he went behind the scenes, and what did he do? He crucified Christ. But Satan, he got to be the stupidest person in the world, right? Because when he crucified Christ, that just played into God's hand, right? Because now what did God do? God raised him from the dead, right? So I guess Satan, that shows that he's not omniscient. He's not all wise, because maybe he might have, if he would have realized the power of the resurrection. See, he thought that when he killed Christ, that it was over, right? But he didn't realize the power of the resurrection. And so the fact that Christ died and Satan was responsible for putting him to death, you know, when I say he's responsible, he used man, you know, he was a part, he guided mankind to put Christ to death. Remember, Jesus told the Pharisees, who were a group that put Jesus to death, he said, you are of your father, the devil, right? So they, you know, they were led by the devil. And so during the tribulation, now the dragon, he comes back to persecute Israel. He will persecute Israel during the tribulation. That will be one of his jobs, Satan, or the dragon. Now notice that this persecution couldn't have been possible because Israel was not a nation until 1948. And again, I've told you on many times that Israel is the only nation that's been completely disbanded and distributed throughout the earth that came back again to become a nation again. And that happened in 1948. So that shows you how the book of Revelation is true. It says that Satan is going to persecute Israel, and Israel will be a nation, and so Satan will come and persecute them. Now notice the dragon. The dragon gives power to the beast. So when we look at the Antichrist, where does the Antichrist get his power? That's right. You got it, saints. The Antichrist gets his power from the dragon. And the dragon is who? The dragon is Satan. Notice it says, and the beast which I saw like a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and the mouth of the lion. Okay, so that's talking about the Antichrist, right? And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So again, when the Antichrist, and you know, we don't know who the Antichrist is. We don't know when some people say that the Antichrist is already here. You know, we don't know, but when he shows up on the scene, he will be empowered by the dragon, and the dragon is Satan. Notice this, that the dragon, or Satan, something that he always wanted, he wanted worship. And in Revelation 13:4, it says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, who is able to make more war with him? Satan's ultimate desire will be fulfilled. He will finally receive the worship he sought for in heaven. You know, he wanted Jesus to worship him. In Matthew chapter 4, he told Jesus, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. One of the things that he didn't realize, Jesus already owned it. So Jesus wasn't bound down to worship him. So Satan has always, and you know, there are actually people in the world today that worship Satan. There's a lot of people that worship the devil, right? I've seen people wear shirts that say that they worship the devil. Okay, so this is not far-fetched. So we see in Revelation, they worship the dragon, which is the first person of the hellish Trinity. We haven't studied it yet, but we're going to look at the Battle of Armageddon, right? And you know, I've often wondered, how do all the armies get to Armageddon when we have this great war? How do all the armies of the world get to Armageddon? Well, Revelation 16 verses 13 says, look at this. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophets. For they are spirits of devils working miracles. Look at this. That go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day. So the dragon will be a part of getting the kings of the earth to come to this great battle of Armageddon. And then we see the dragon, and we've looked at the millennium. right? The 1,000-year reign of Christ. And we see the dragon during that time will be bound for 1,000 years. And then at the end of the 1,000 years, he will be loosed. Okay, so in Revelation 20:1-3, it says the dragon, which is the devil, which is Satan, will be bound for 1,000 years. Okay, that he'll be cast into the pit, bound for 1,000 years. And then at the end of the 1,000 years, the dragon will be loosed and come back. And again, remember I said earlier about during the millennial, there'll be no temptation, that people don't have to worry about being tempted during the millennial. Well, you know why that is? Because the dragon, the devil, Satan, will not be there. He will not have influence. He will be bound in the pit. Okay. And then at the end of the year, 1,000 years, he'll be loose. And all those people who never had a commitment to Christ, they never accepted Christ and followed him, that when the dragon comes back and is loose, that he will deceive them and they will follow him into eternity without Christ. All right. And then we see the end of the Holy Trinity, right? The dragon, which is Satan, is cast into the lake of fire. Revelation 20:10. And the devil, which deceiveth them, was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So the devil, or the dragon, right? The Antichrist and the false prophet are already there, right? They've been there for 1,000 years. And then one day, the devil is going to rejoin them again, and he will be cast into the lake of fire. And you'll never have to worry about the dragon, the devil, Satan. You never have to worry about him again, because he will spend eternity in this lake of fire. All right. So that's, now again, so we're in the tribulation, and the characters that we're looking at now are the unholy Trinity, the dragon, which is Satan, the first beast, which is the Antichrist, and the second beast, which is the false prophet. All right. Covered a lot of ground there today.
Yes. Questions, comments?